Robert. First of all, this was the first time I got to actually see a little Tallahassee. When I came here before, the university asked me to come in to speak to students, and I went on campus, gave a talk, and left. So it was really nice today to get a tour, and thank to a number of people to see all the amazing stuff that's going on here. In fact, some of my local friends didn't know all the amazing stuff that was going on here until they joined me today for the tours. So it's just incredible. And I was telling Robert that ecosystem, entrepreneurs' chances of success are way higher if they live somewhere where there's an ecosystem, where the university cares, where the city cares, where the investors care, where there's mentors, where there's talent, where there's access to other entrepreneurs who are going through the same struggles. When you have an ecosystem around you, your odds of success are much, much higher. We actually studied that. I chair something called the Global Entrepreneurship Network, and we're now on the ground in 200 countries. So we have studied this all over the world. So that being said, I visit cities all over the world. I literally came to you guys from Saudi Arabia. By the way, the other reason this is fun is I just spoke at an event that had 140,000 people at it. So this is way more fun that I get to meet people and talk to people than doing something like that. But we've been collecting this data, and I've been looking at cities all over the world. So you guys need to give yourselves a big hand for how the way this city is coming together to support entrepreneurs. I think it's really impressive. So let's talk a little bit. We're going to take a little time. I'm between you and dinner, so I won't go too long. To talk about entrepreneurship, what it is, why it matters. I don't even like the word entrepreneurship anymore. Because when I go around the world and ask people if they want to be an entrepreneur, they tell me they're not really in tech. I don't know how to build apps. I don't know how to build websites. And so I don't even like using the word anymore. If I could name it, I'd just call it self-determination. Entrepreneurship is the opportunity, not the job. It's a privilege. It's the opportunity to design the future, to design your future, to design Tallahassee's future, the country's future. Some people are impacting the entire world. That's the cool part about being an entrepreneur. It's not about the money. It's not about the business. It's about being everyone else is waiting to see what the future will bring. Why don't you just be the person who designs it? That's the reason to do this. And it starts with designing your own life. And I do want to say this about entrepreneurship as well. We're farmers. We just happen to be idea farmers, right? And in the idea business, we plant lots of seeds. We feed them and water them, and some don't grow. That's all. Failure is just all part of it. But the beauty of being in the idea business is this. Ideas don't care. A good idea doesn't care where it came from. It doesn't care if you're young. It doesn't care if you're old. You can have a good idea at 83 years old. You can have a good idea at 13 years old. It doesn't care if you're male or female. It doesn't care if you're black or white. None of that stuff matters. A good idea is an unstoppable force in the world. And that's the part people forget. They write themselves off. They make a list of the excuses. It's harder because I'm a mom. It's harder because I'm a minority. It's harder because I live in Tallahassee, not Silicon Valley. All those are excuses. A good idea will always win. And that's important. In fact, I'm talking to this guy one day that I noticed doesn't seem to think much of anybody an immigrant, anybody that wasn't born here, and he definitely doesn't think young people have anything good to say. So after he expressed those views to me, I stopped the call. And this is pre-Zoom, so we were on Skype. Hopefully most of you have used Skype. And I said, hey, hang on a sec, after he told me that immigrants don't know anything and young people don't know anything. I said, before we go on, how's the call? He said, the call's fine. What do you mean? I said, how's the Skype signal? He said, I use Skype literally every day. It's fine. Why are you asking me that? I said, you probably want to delete it. It was created by a 17-year-old from Estonia. And it was dead silence. Then I hung up. A good idea is a good idea, okay? That's really, really important. For me, by the way, I grew up in not even Phoenix. I grew up in Arizona. In the desert. It was unincorporated, just the desert, right? Back then, I had a single mom. She had 4 kids and 3 jobs. We had no money. To my mom's credit, my sister recently said to me, you know what? We didn't even know we were poor. And I can only credit my mom for that because I never felt sorry for myself. We were poor and we just didn't know and we didn't care. That wasn't the focus at all. But I'll tell you what I did care about. And this is what I'm going to share about 3 or 4 things that are important to be successful as an entrepreneur. So the first one is, I already started talking about it, is that you need to envision a future that's better than the one you're in. You need to be able to see a future that you want to be the person. You want to be part of making that future a reality. And it starts with something you care about. Entrepreneurs that are solving a problem or working in a space they're actually passionate about are the ones that succeed, because they're driven by something way bigger than just making money. When people pitch something to me and I say, why are you working on that? And they say, because I think I can make money, I'm already disinterested, if that's your first answer. And when you're doing something, in fact, one day I have this wall in my office where I write down all these things that drive me. And one day I wrote down that people driven by passion and purpose will far outperform people driven by paycheck. And so that's the first part. Have a purpose. Be passionate about something, it doesn't even matter what, about something that you care about. And so I'll tell you what mine was. In this little town in the desert, I wanted out, and I wanted to go see the world. And I can tell you that where that started in 6th grade, because we had to pick a book for a book report, and I picked a Mark Twain book. And when I opened up this book, on the inside cover, Mark Twain wrote me a note. I know he was dead, but I told my mom, somehow he wrote this note knowing I would read this book. And you know what he wrote in the inside of the book? He wrote, travel is the fatal enemy of prejudice. And I knew that was for me. And I was up all night and I asked my mom, what does that mean? And my mom basically told me this, that hate comes from ignorance. Ignorance comes from lack of understanding. And lack of understanding comes from never spending time with people that don't look like you. And so I realized right then as a kid, for me to ever become the man I want to be someday, I need to go see the world. I need to not judge a Muslim family unless I've had dinner at their home with their family, okay? And so I got this crazy idea. I know how to become the person I want to be one day, and this was my definition of an epic life, and this is important because you need to have one no matter how old you are. Whatever's the rest of your life is, it's your job to make it epic, and only you can define that. So I asked myself, if I look back one day, what would be epic for me? Well, I know what mine is. My passion was travel because I wanted to fulfill that goal. What would be epic for me is if I look back one day at the end and I have visited 50 different countries in my life. But it was actually a little crazier, even though back then I told no one this. I wrote this down. By the way, I write my goals down and I stick them on a note card in the bathroom mirror. And you want to know why I do that? Because you can't hide from them if it's in front of you every single day. When I ask adults their dreams, they're like, dude, I have a mortgage, I have a family now, I'm a grown-up. And I always say, is that growing up or just giving up? Why are you saying because you have responsibilities that you can't have a good life anymore? I hear that way too often from people. In fact, their job usually is the excuse. I'm busy, I own an accounting firm. And let me tell you this, what I wrote down on my board one day. Your business, your career should be the vehicle that takes you to the life you want to live, not the obstacle that's preventing you from living it. That's why I chose to be an entrepreneur. Instead of not liking your job, why don't you just design one you want? I worked for a boss that I firmly believe had one corporate job. I firmly believe this guy was both racist and misogynist. If you weren't white male, you didn't count. And instead of complaining about it, one day I said, you know what? Why don't I just make the company I wish I worked for? And so we just created a company where there's no race, no gender, no ethnicity, no age. Everybody's judged by merit. And I was like, wait, why didn't I just do this in the first place? Instead of complaining about the environment I'm in. That's the reason to be an entrepreneur, to design that world that you want to live in. So you already know what mine was. Mine was travel. But the crazy part of the dream was what I really wanted to do was have dinner with 50 families in 50 homes in 50 countries and 50 different cultures. But I made the mistake of telling somebody that once, and everybody laughed at how stupid I am and how unrealistic my dreams were. I didn't change my dream, I just stopped telling everybody, okay? But the dream was 50 families, 50 cultures, 50 dinners. And I'm like, if that's my life one day, that's gonna be a pretty good ride, right? That's what I want you all to look back one day and say, this is a pretty good ride, right? I don't wanna ask, when I ask kids today, I visit schools all over the world, what do you want to be when you grow up? Sometimes they say LeBron or Beyonce, right? And I always tell them, even adults, if you put all the energy you spend into wishing you were Beyonce, into making your life one that you really love, imagine where you'd get. So the goal, the definition of success is when you look at your life and you say, don't touch it. Even with all my mistakes and everything I've done wrong, I actually like my life. And I don't want to be someone else. I want to be me. That's the definition of success. Not fame, not money. It's just, you might have those things. The question at the end is, do you love your life the way that it's turning out? So with that in mind, I knew what my goal was, right? And so what I'm telling you is, if you're starting a business, you're already less surprised that my companies were Priceline.com, Booking.com, right? Because what was my goal? My epic life would be if I could see the world. But you know what happened when I went and got a job out of college? I folded to peer pressure, even my mom's, my parents. I went and got an engineering job because everybody said, get an engineering degree because you can get a good job at a good company and get a good paycheck. So I did. My mom was proud of me. I got a good job at a good company and a good paycheck because I got a good degree at the university. You know what I didn't get? A good life. And you know what? No one ever asked me if I was having a good life. Whatever he did was pat me on the back and say, congratulations, you got a good job at a good company and a good paycheck. And I was miserable every day in my cubicle, saying, where does the good life part come in? Because no one seems concerned about that except me. So I walked out one day, I quit, and I said, I can't do this. I have no idea what's going to happen next. By the way, one of the other things on my wall is the saying that says, being an entrepreneur is like jumping off a cliff and trying to build an airplane on the way down, okay? I spent my whole life throwing myself off of cliffs and wondering what was going to happen next. If that scares you, don't be an entrepreneur. That's the DNA of entrepreneurs. If that thrills you, you're in the right place, right? Everyone shouldn't be an entrepreneur, right? Everyone doesn't want to, but everybody shouldn't be. I live for not knowing what's coming next because the thought of knowing what every day of the rest of my life would look like was killing me. Everybody, it's a DNA thing. There's no right and wrong. You should do what works for you. I'm just telling you my story. So picking something that you are passionate about is the first part of being a successful entrepreneur because you're going to make that happen, not just some way you thought you could make a buck. The second part that's important is to solve real problems in the world. You guys have no idea how often entrepreneurs come up to me and they're like, look, I made this. And I say, who wants one of those? And they say, we'll see, we're about to start marketing it, right? That's the way most people, you know where they are? They're sitting in their office or at their home coming up with ideas. Most people launch a product from where they work and push it out into the world. The most successful people are not sitting at their desk. They're out in the world experiencing it and stumbling upon problems. I'm going to give you an example that they say, whoa, wait, somebody needs to fix this, and it might as well be me. So, for example, I have a friend that got sick of, he loves road trips, but this isn't the day of paper maps. He can't read a map. I never could. I certainly have never folded a map once in my entire life correctly. He couldn't read maps, and he was always lost. And he wanted to be on the road. He loves road trips in his car, but he can't read a map. One day he pulled his car over to the side of the road and thought this, which is what the next time you are complaining about a problem, ask yourself this. How many other people are complaining about this problem right now? If the answer is lots, okay, then there's step two that entrepreneurs do. Ask yourself, is there a better way? And if you think there's a better way to solve this problem, then entrepreneurs do a third thing no one else does. They say, you guys can go home without me. I got this. I'm not leaving until this is fixed. So he was sitting in his car one day, staring up at the sky, looking for guidance that he was lost, and saying there's got to be a way to never be lost again. Guess what's in the sky that suddenly occurred to him? Satellites. And guess what you can do if there's 3 satellites? They can figure out where you are. And if they know where you are, you can tell them where you want to go, and they can tell you. So you know what my friend Lars did? He created Google Maps, not Google. You know what they bought it? I'm not a money guy, but they bought it from Lars for $1 billion. It pays to solve a problem that you are passionate about. Another friend of mine was always changing the radio station because there'd be a song he loved and the next song would be, he hated it, and it was nothing like the song before. So one day he said, how many people are always hitting the button back then because the next song, why can't they just play songs that I like? Because they don't know what you like. How could I figure that out? So he sat there and said, I wonder how many people are changing their radio right now. So you know what he did? He wrote code to break songs into stems, to lay stems into attributes, to overlay the attributes to find songs he might like. You might have heard of it. It's called Pandora. But a friend of mine wrote that because he was sick of listening to songs he didn't like. Solve a real problem that lots of people have. So I'll tell you what mine was. Now, the key to success, the key to victory, is when the problem you solve is in the area that you are passionate about. Okay, so what was my goal? My goal was to go see the world. You know what all my friends said? They're like, dude, you're broke, your mom's broke, you're not going anywhere. And they said, there's no job that's going to pay you to fly around the world. And I remember thinking, you're right, there's not, so I'll just make one, okay? So the word I want you to remember from this is intent. The reason I told you before I write my goals on the bathroom mirror is because where do you end every single day? in my bathroom brushing my teeth. And I look at this thing. You know what my first one said? It said, visit 50 countries before you die. Every day I would have to stare at that and I would ask myself this, Jeff, did you do anything today to get closer to the life you really want to live? Right? And then every morning, where do I start my day? Brushing my teeth, and I look in my bathroom mirror and I say, what are you going to do today that's any different? You can do the same thing again so you never get closer. And guess what else is magically in your bathroom mirror? You. You're going to look yourself in the eyes and lie to yourself again and again. Gets harder to do when it's plastered right there. So I always have a note card in my bathroom mirror of what I want to do next with my life. So I will tell you guys what happened before I move on. I was in my giant engineering company. I'll tell you what made me quit. And I was, got in the elevator every day at lunch. I was like, I got to get out of this building. I would like look at the clock and wait till noon and run out just to get a break. And I got in the elevator at lunch and I look and there's a friend of mine in our building. I was like, Brian, what are you doing here? And he's like, Jeff, what are you doing here? I said, I work here. What are you doing here? He said, I work here. I was like, how are we friends? And I never knew you work here. That's how big the engineering company was. And I said, where do you work? And he said, I work at marketing on 6. And I said, that explains it. Engineering's on 4. I work in engineering on 4. So I just come into 4 every day. He goes to 6. I just never happened to catch him in the elevator. So I went home that night, brushing my teeth, and I'm looking at the little white note card that says, visit 50 countries before you die. And my toothbrush literally fell out of my mouth. And I was like, visit 50 countries? I've never even been to the 6th floor. Okay? Do you want to know the most exotic country I've ever been to? One time I actually pushed 5 and got off in accounting. That was like the most exotic country I've ever visited. I ran because there was like an alarm, engineer in accounting, engineer in accounting. I just ran off the floor laughing. That's the only trip I've ever taken. So that's why I quit. I was like, I'm never getting to this life. You can't keep, what's the definition of insanity? Do the same thing over and over again and think the result's going to change? It ain't going to happen. So I quit and I made that leap. When I quit, I told you I came from a small town, middle of nowhere, with a mom with 3 jobs, 4 kids, no money, no advantages whatsoever, except I had intent. I want a better life and I know what life I want. And I knew that if I could solve problems in the industry I was passionate about, those are really important points, that's probably the key to a pretty good life. So I'll tell you guys what happened. I'm 22 years old, I'm unemployed. I'm broke. My mom used to be calling her friends when I had the engineering job and saying how proud she was of her son. Now she's calling them back and saying, remember I told you how great my son was? I was wrong, he's an idiot. He quit his high-paying job and he's broke now and unemployed. And so everyone's mad at me. I am broke, I am hungry, and I got no plan. But I have intent and I have a passion and I have a vision for the future that I want. Those are the only ingredients you need, not funding. Quit using money as an excuse for not building the things you want to build, for not pursuing the dreams. You know what else is on my wall? Probably the most valuable lesson I can ever teach people. One day I wrote down a lesson I learned. Don't chase money, chase excellence. Money follows excellence. I never chased money in my life, and I was the one that always got paid. You know why? Because I've always chased excellence. And when you create something amazing in the world, the money knocks your door down. Quit worrying about the money. People always talk about in the startup world, what's your exit strategy? You know what I think now when I'm on this side of the table? I'm like, what's your entrance strategy? Who cares? What are you exiting, a PowerPoint? Your people are shopping for cars after they finish their PowerPoint? I have focused on my entrance strategy. I am going to build the best companies in the world, and I'm never going to worry about money. Just as an example, I told you guys I'm not really here to talk about money, but we didn't really have an exit strategy, building a company like Priceline. Today, people talk about there's songs about being a billionaire or building the billion-dollar company. We had one goal in mind, to build an excellent company that delivered what it said, right, that was really efficient and was profitable. And did we ever have to sell the company for an exit strategy? No. The company today, and I'm sorry to say this, I almost feel bad, but we started the company on a table like this with a group like that, and it's worth $97 billion today. You don't have to focus on anything but building amazing in the world. So with all that in my head at the time, I went to the airport. I bought a ticket to go see a mentor, my mentor, except that he didn't know he was my mentor because I haven't met him yet. I was planning to hide outside his office and convince him to be my mentor. I got to the airport. Back then, you had to wait in a line to check in to get your boarding pass at the counter from a person. And the line on a busy Friday was almost an hour and a half. And I missed the flight standing in line. And I was standing there really upset. When you change a flight, you used to pay a change fee pre-COVID. When you miss it, you lose your whole ticket. That's exactly right. That's exactly what I was going to say. He just summarized it in way less words. So here I am, even more upset. That's the only money I had. I've lost my airline ticket. I have nowhere to go. I'm broke and unemployed. Everyone's mad at me. I'm standing in the airport, giant line, and I missed the flight because it took so long to check in. But because all those pieces I described to you were all in my head, guess what happened? I saw the moment. I was like, wait, my intent is to travel. My intent is to build a company that treats every human being with the same level of dignity and respect. My intent is to go pay my bills. Money matters. I'm not saying, never said that it didn't. I do need to be a responsible adult and pay my bills. I had all these things in mind that I wanted to do. So when I was in the moment, I saw it. That's the important thing about intent. That's the important thing about a note card on your mirror, is you'll miss the opportunity if you're so busy in your accounting company every day that you've lost sight of everything you actually intended to do with your life. So I'll tell you what happened. I went home that day and I started my first startup ever that Friday. So if you've ever, tell me if you've ever gone to an airport and checked yourself in at one of those check-in kiosks, right? Have a lot of people use those? So that was my first invention. When I was 20-something years old and broke, I took out a pencil, drew a kiosk, and now they're in every airport in the world. I was able to launch a company. I was able to, well, you can see then that I went on to more travel stuff, Priceline, Booking.com. You know what my goal was? I want to travel. I want to pay my bills. That part worked out okay. And I want to work for a company that operates the way I want it to operate. That was all the beauty of entrepreneurship. My future I was trying to design was to visit, like I told you guys, 50 families and 50 cultures around the world before I die, which hopefully is not coming up soon. But I'm on the way from here next to Guatemala, and that's about, I think that's country 113, and I've already made an arrangement with a family to go to their home. That's all I ever wanted to do, guys. So I'm going to tell you one last part about entrepreneurship, and then we'll talk about sort of the why you do this. The last part that I really want to share with you is about, I'm trying to think what makes them, I'll tell you what, okay, this is one that probably makes the most sense. It's about becoming, this is a big key to an epic life. A big key to an epic life for anybody in this room, no matter who you are and what you do, is to become valuable to the people you want to be around in your life. So you know what that requires? You to know who you want to be around. You know who I wanted to be around and be valuable to then? The travel industry, right? I want to be valuable to the people that control travel in the world because they can control my future and my destiny. I remember I was working with one young student and she said, it was Fashion Week in New York and Paris. And I said, what's a dream of yours? And she said, to be sitting on the runway at Fashion Week. I said, who gets the seats on the runway? Sadly, I got to sit there one time, which was a complete waste of a seat because I have no idea what I was watching and what I was talking about. But it was funny because she said, I said, who gets to sit there? And she said, only invited guests. And I said, how do you get invited? She said, they're the important people in the fashion industry. I said, you now have a goal. You need to become the important people in the fashion industry. Whatever you guys want to do, whatever industry you want to succeed in, you need to become valuable to the most important people in the industry. Do you know how you become valuable to people in the industry? You solve a problem that they can't solve. Do you know how you solve a problem that they can't solve? You stay up night after night studying their industry. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples, right? I got a little burned out of tech after a while. After 5 tech companies in a row. We had our failures, but our successes were way bigger. Priceline.com, Booking.com, and ubid.com all became multi-billion-dollar companies. So I had some really stupid, horrendously bad ideas that failed, and they're embarrassing. But they were a lot smaller than our successes. So you're going to fail. That's all fine. Get over it. Move on. But I wanted to take a break from tech, and I asked myself, I took that card off the mirror. I'm doing pretty good on these 50 countries. What's next? And you should do that your whole life. At any given point, put your next goal up, and when you hit it, get another one. Who said you have to do the same thing the rest of your life? So you know what my passion is? My passion is music, right? Even though I'm an engineer, my passion is music. So I was like, what would be really cool next in my life? It would be to be able to be around people like DJ Demp, being around people, creative people in the music industry. DJ Demp's here with us tonight. I want to be around music people. I want to be around music. So here's what you do. You have to be valuable to the people in the industry. You can only do that if you solve a problem they have, and you can only do that if you do this. I stayed up every night. I read everything I could read about the music industry. And you make a list, the industry you wish you were in, the people you want to be important to, make a list of what they have to do for a living. What are the problems they have to solve? So my thing was, I was at a concert with some friends. It was an Elton John concert. And some guy came out on stage and he's like, "Are you people ready to rock?" And 30,000 people are screaming. And I'm like, "Who's that dude?" And they're like, "He's the producer." And I said, "I want to do that." My friends all laughed. There goes this big stupid dreamer again with another idea. Do you know what everybody told me? You're a software engineer. You can't do that. Everybody tells you no. Everybody tells you what you can't do. Quit letting anybody put a roof over your head. Anybody put a roof over your head. Only you control that. So I was sitting there. In fact, I have to give you a quick sports story that really crystallized this for me. One of my friends was a heavyweight fighter. We've been friends for a long time. His name's Evander Holyfield. If you don't know that Evander knocked out Mike Tyson, you probably know that Mike bit my friend's ear off, which is funny because yesterday I spent the day with Mike Tyson. If any of you have seen my social media, we had a little fun talking about that. I just went to him like that. So you already bitten my friends, don't bite me. He sort of has a sense of humor. That's why I posted what I posted about him and I fighting. But anyway, Evander was fighting Mike Tyson. And this is about attitude, guys, how important attitude is. And everyone in the world was saying Mike Tyson might literally kill my friend tonight. Vegas had Evander like a 50-1 underdog. Sports Illustrated said Mike Tyson might literally kill him. In the corner that night, Jim, one of our guys in the corner, came up to Evander because there's no way he's going to win this fight. He was just letting him know that it was okay to not win this fight. And he said, everybody in the entire world expects you to lose tonight. Now, in his defense, he was trying to let Evander know, we're not expecting you to win this, it's okay. But what he said to Evander was, everyone in the whole world expects you to lose tonight. And Evander said something I never forgot. He said, everybody but me, and I'm the one going into the ring. And I just got goosebumps. And he knocked out Mike Tyson. And he came back to the corner with this smile on his face and basically said to me, you're the one in the fight. Why are you listening to everybody else? So I'm going to share that same thing with you guys because that's what everybody said when I said I'm going to start a music company. I studied it. I wrote down all the problems that they have to solve, right? When I decided I want to produce concerts and tours after seeing that guy, I can't sing the songs. I can't write the songs. I can't produce them. I can't play the instruments. You definitely don't want to see me dance, right? But you know what else was on that list? Somebody has to finance tours and concerts and put together a business plan. And you know what else was on that list? Somebody has to market and promote it. Actually, I'm really good at those things. So I make a list of everything that gets done in the industry you want to be in. Cross off all the ones you can't do. If there's nothing left, go to something else. Move on. You gave it a shot. But I circled two things. So I launched a music company after that. And I said, I can contribute these two problems that everybody needs help solving, right? For example, one of my best friends here in Florida is Pitbull. Pitbull doesn't produce his own tour. He doesn't book himself for a show. We did a Beyonce tour. She doesn't book her tour. I put that whole thing together. There's something where you can create value to those people. Remember, where everybody is looking for you. When I created that company, we wound up producing, back then it was pop, guys. This was a while ago. But we did NSYNC, Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys. I did some Boyz II Men. We did Elton John. We did Beyonce. You know why? Because all those people came to me for help because they all wanted to go on tour, and that's what we do. Solve a real problem in an industry. Become valuable to the people that you want to become valuable to. And I'll summarize it by this before I wrap up about one more thing about giving back. You need to become the go-to girl or the go-to guy in the industry that you're in love with. That's the way to think of it. What would make you the go-to girl or the go-to guy, person in that industry? And so now for me, people that I've always admired, I've had a chance to become friends with them. But the reason why is because I put in all the work. I stayed up all the late nights. I studied their industries. I looked at the problems. I figured out what I could solve, and I created solutions. So recently, I got a phone call. Well, actually, it was a video call, so I knew it was really him, which was Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq called me. I'm getting dressed in my bathroom, and I get a video call, and I look at the person. I was like, it says Shaq, and it looks like Shaq. By the way, don't repeat this. He's half naked in his bathroom getting dressed. And I was like, Shaquille O'Neal? He's like, yeah, Jeff. And I was like, yeah. I said, why don't you wait till you get dressed and call me? He said, why would you answer the phone if you're not dressed? I said, okay, this call is not off to a good start. What can I help you with? And he said, I got a problem that I need your help with, and everyone says you're the go-to guy in whatever industry. You know why I got to see the world? Because when I built that kiosk, airlines started calling me. Lufthansa called from Germany. Could you come to Germany? I said, what do you need me for? We're trying to make the airport check-in process more efficient, and everybody says you're the guy. Become the go-to guy and the go-to girl for the industry that you want to be in by solving real problems you're passionate about, and nobody can stop you. Our music story had a funny ending because we produced, after all those tours, we produced one album ever that we went in the studio and made. And I know this sounds silly, but I won a Grammy. And I was standing on the Grammy red carpet, and all the, we won for Best Jazz Album that year. And all the paparazzi people were yelling, how do you feel right now? And I said on the Grammy red carpet to all those people, I said, this is the dream of software engineers everywhere. And everyone's like, what? And the little headset dude's like, Mr. Hoffman, you're killing the vibe on the red carpet. Please move on. And I was like, I was talking to myself, not you guys. I don't really care what they think. It was that all I ever heard was no. You're a software engineer. Everyone will tell you what you can't do. Very few people will tell you what you can. More importantly, very few people will help you do it. So the last part of success is finding a team of people that have the same beliefs as you. You pick people based on core values. You look at somebody and say, she's one of us. I don't even know what your resume is. She's one of us. I want to work with her. Pick people you want to spend your day with, not people that know the industry. When you find a mentor, don't find a mentor because they're in the music business. The definition of a mentor is someone you want to be like when you grow up, and I don't care how old you are, you're never done growing up. Find somebody you want to be like. That's the person that should be your mentor. Surround yourself with people that share your values, share your passions, and are willing to make the same commitments you are. Nothing I did was successful because of me. All of it was because I had the right people around me. So guys, thank you so much for listening tonight. I appreciate it.